Well, welcome to everybody here. We've got our first online church service for the present situation that we're going through at the moment. And our guests to this weekend were to be Deb and Paul Hilton. So they were supposed to be preaching morning and night, following along with our series Gutsy Women and A Few Good Men. And so we're going to just let them have a shot at saying some of the things that they were going to say anyway, and hope that you enjoy some of the things that they're going to be sharing. Now, you guys are both Australians,
right?
Yep.
And you're now living and working in Vietnam,
Right.
Yep.
but there's been a bit of a change in the sense that you're now working in a more global situation in the area of coaching and mentoring of other missionaries.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah, we've had 22 years in Vietnam, and
I used to be your boss.
True.
Yeah,
He used to be our boss.
and a good boss at that.
Look at the fruit.
Thank you, yes.
And we've learned a lot in that period of time, and we've a lot been poured into our lives, and so we really felt that we really needed to sow that into the lives of others, and don't waste what you've been given.
Yeah.
And we've been given much, and so we felt, probably the last 4 years or so, the Lord has been really speaking to us about transitioning into a more extensive role with other field workers, other missionaries, people that are involved in mission to share our experience, mentoring, just coaching.
Bit of pastoral care there.
Bit of
as well.
pastoral
Totally.
care, and there's a lot of that needed
Yeah.
needed out there.
Yeah.
The work that you're doing in Da Nang, Vietnam is incredible. You've got a big team there.
Right.
Yeah.
We've got a great team there,
Yeah.
Tom. Our team have basically been with us right from the beginning, which speaks volumes.
Yeah.
And so they don't need us, which is a great problem to have.
Yeah.
And so they're running it, they're doing everything. So it really releases us to do what God's called us for this season. Yeah.
One of the guys that works with you, Vietnamese guy, Co,
Yes.
he was there before you,
Right.
Yeah.
working with us when we were there.
Right.
So it's
True.
quite amazing. You've had
Yeah.
a good, cohesive team working with you for
Yeah.
such a
Yeah.
long time.
Yeah.
And of course, Da Nang, believe me, Da Nang's not Norwich, okay? There's challenges at living there.
Yeah.
One of the things that we're going to be trying for the very, very first time is we want to bless these guys financially. And, by video today, on your screen, you'll see a donate button. And I would really just like to encourage you. We want to bless these guys. They've come to the UK at their own expense. We're, helping by putting them up in a local hotel here. But we want to bless them. We want to give them something when they leave here. So look at that donate button there, and whenever you feel moved to do so, just push the donate button, follow all the instructions online. Okay, so we've been doing this series in our church called Gutsy Women.
Yeah.
And so I'm going to hand over to you right now and
Okay.
give you, say, 10 minutes or so. Give us the guts of Gutsy Women, your
Okay.
message.
When I heard what your theme was of gutsy women, I thought, what a powerful word. And I looked up the word gutsy, and when we're thinking about gutsy women, the word gutsy actually means courageous, determined, spirited,
Yeah.
bold,
Yeah.
fearless, and
Love
I
it.
really love this, lion-hearted.
Wow.
And I think women in general are lion-hearted. And I know this weekend is Mother's Day, and I think mums have to be lion-hearted in a lot of areas. But whether you're a mum or you're not a mum, women are gutsy. And so I champion women, of course. But, when we're looking at different women, I don't know who you think of when you think of gutsy women personally. There's a lot of people I could think of. But my daughter, who's a single mum with 4 children, that's gutsy.
Yeah.
But when we're thinking of mothers today, I think of the mother of mothers, and that has to be Mary. Was she someone that's above supernatural? No, but she was chosen of God. And what makes her gutsy is just being willing to be interrupted. She was engaged, she was about to be married, and she was probably planning everything for her wedding. She probably had everything set up. She'd been online and got all those, gifts, ideas ready for her people. And all of a sudden, here's Gabriel come and say, hey, this is what I'd like you to do. I would love for you to come and birth Christ into the world, the Saviour of of this world. So what she was willing to do as a gutsy person was be interrupted. You know, her plans were interrupted. And I love what she says here. When Gabriel met with her, she said, "Let it be unto me." To me, that says, you know, I am just going to abandon faith completely into God's hands and let it be unto me. You know, the culture of the day, you can imagine, I mean, even today, but the culture of the day, an unwed mum, you can imagine the whispers and the was she going to be rejected even by her fiance? But you know, she knew God, and God knew her, and he knew that he could trust her with this assignment. So you know, who gets to birth God? What an amazing opportunity. But you know, each of us are called to birth something of God in our lives, and it takes guts sometimes. It takes being interrupted in our lives. So what I want to really put out there is, you know, God gives us an invitation. The King has given each one of us an invitation, and it's to birth something of God. And so women, I just believe, you know, we walk alongside men, but we are not less, we're not more, but we walk alongside. And you know, God has called us to walk alongside with power and authority and with a lion's heart. And God has called you and I to walk with a lion's heart and just say yes to God. You know, you can trust God in your journey. When he's asking you to do something, can I just encourage you to say yes? Because he is trustworthy. For Mary, you know, she abandoned something that was going to be a plan. Was it ejected? Absolutely not, because she still got to marry her loved one. When God calls us to something, he doesn't take something from us. He gives us an opportunity to do something greater.
That's good.
For him. And when we allow ourselves to be interrupted, don't look at it as something taking, but some opportunity to actually go forward and do something amazing for God. And it's an adding, not a taking away. You know, when God gives us an invitation, we are to say yes, because you know what happens is if we don't say yes, he'll get someone who will. And we don't want to be ones that sit on the grandstand of life and look down at the person that's doing what God's called us to do and say, that should have been me. God is saying to say yes to me, and you will be amazed at the things that God does and uses you for. I know for myself, when God asked us to, or for myself to write a life skills program, God said, you're going to take this north, south, east and west. And I just thought, wow, what an amazing opportunity. Being in Vietnam, we're going to go to Hanoi, we're going to go to Ho Chi Minh, country Vietnam, but I had no idea that God would take this worldwide. It's just simply from saying yes. Well, are we great? No. What it is the greatness of God inside of us. That's gutsy, being lion-hearted. And can I encourage you today to just stand up and be lion-hearted for God, for whatever God's called you to. Today is Mother's Day, and I just want to just say, God bless you as mothers, and God bless you that want to be mothers. And even if you're not a mum, just know that God has got a plan and a purpose for your life, and it is one that's to give and not to take. He has an amazing track record of being faithful. So my heart to you is today, just say yes in the call of God. Amen.
That's great.
Amen.
Go on, Deb. That's fantastic. And it's a great reminder today is Mother's Day.
Yes.
And, you know, we want to just say, you know, to all the mums in the house, God bless you. We're going to have scones with cream and jam. Oh, yeah. And so we can't do that with you, so we'll just eat the scones and the cream and jam.
Totally.
And drink as much tea as we possibly can.
Sounds good.
So happy Mother's Day to all the mums in the house.
Yeah, happy Mother's Day.
And, you know, I hope that you're FaceTiming with your mum and giving her all the love she needs. But it's also great to have you here with us, Paul, you know, taking the subject of a few good men.
Good men.
So share with us, what's on your heart as far as this theme was concerned?
Well, the whole theme of few good men is a great theme. The track I'm taking is which narrative are you living out of? Because there are a lot of narratives out there, and there are a couple of narratives that I really want to talk about that are really impacting men being men and finding a few good men in our world. And the first one is really a narrative of the macho man, you know, and there's macho comes, I just want to read this, it comes from a Spanish word machismo, and it says this, the definition, having an unusually high or an exaggerated sense of masculinity, including an attitude that aggression, strength, sexual prowess, power and control is the measure of someone's manliness. There's also the belief in the right to dominate and control, including, but not limited to, control over women. Now, that's one of the narratives that are out there, and it severs the emotions, and it sets up sexual conquest and athletic conquest as the levels of manliness of who a man should be. And, you know, men don't feel, men do. That's the sort of thing that sets up. But what it does, embracing that narrative, you end up with the Harvey Weinsteins of this world.
That's right.
And we've seen how that's all played out recently, you know.
Yeah.
But what that's actually generated through that is the Me Too movement. And now, while that's been a great thing, and it's through people that have stood up, that have seen Weinstein recently convicted.
Yeah.
And I think 23 years, I think.
That's right.
He got, and he should do as well. But the Me Too movement, while that's been a great thing, it's also created some problems. And I just want to read from I've read a number of articles that, and these are from women, a number of articles that relate to the Me Too movement. This is one from a Forbes magazine article in January of last year, and it's entitled this, Dear Sir, don't let hashtag Me Too make you afraid of me. And it says this, something troubling has been happening to me lately. Men appear to be afraid of me. A male superior at work asked, is it okay to say that? After complimenting me on a new pair of funky boots. Another man apologised profusely after tapping my elbow. A male colleague called after a tense but completely professional conversation to make sure that you're okay, you don't feel that I was rude. While this extreme politeness could indicate that the Me Too movement is having a positive impact, it's more likely a sign that men are unsure of how to interact with women. It's an unintended consequence of the movement, which could set both men and women back to the wrong outcome. A world where men are advised never to meet with women alone, to avoid any chance of being called out for harassment. Recent surveys substantiate my experience. Lean In and SurveyMonkey found that nearly half of male managers are uncomfortable participating in mentoring, working alone or socialising with women. And the number of male managers who are uncomfortable mentoring women has more than tripled. A recent Harvard Business Review study exploring Me Too and Time Up movements impact on creating lasting improvements to their organisation revealed the adverse effects. Men and women aren't talking to each other. And that's one of the, it just goes on, but that's one of the problems with that narrative. That's the impact that it's having. But there's another narrative out there, and that's the one that's also a false narrative, and it's a narrative that is predominantly for probably the 30 and under. There's no difference, there's no distinction between men and women and what men and women can do. There's nothing for the man that's not also for the women. It flattens out gender, gender becomes fluid, and men don't know who they are. They don't know who they are, so what they try to do is hide their manliness and try to just act Christianly to everybody, but man's being pushed out of society, the man. John Piper said this, when we teach this, when we flatten God's call on little boys to become distinctly men, we forfeit both great restraint on male vice, as well as the God-ordained incentive for male valour. And that's what we're losing in society. And another, just a snippet from a social network site, Reddit. This is a guy writing, he says, young men are living life walking around on pins and needles. Everything they do is wrong. Every decision they make is wrong. Their very existence is wrong. Young men are told that they relate to and must shoulder the burden of centuries of violence, of evil of past men. Men are bad, you're a man, and this is reinforced in most boys from early on. So the obvious corollary is this, I'm a man, I'm therefore bad. And so men are bad, I'm a man, therefore I need to cease being a man, or at least hide the parts of me that are a man. And that's a whole social paradigm where masculinity is under attack. But there is a third narrative, and that's God's narrative, and that's what I want to really talk to briefly. What does God say about a man? Now, Ephesians chapter 2 and verse 10, this is from the Passion Translation, says this, even before we were born, God planned in advance our destiny and the good works that we would do to fulfill it. God's narrative of a man is to fulfill the good works that he's preordained before we were even thought of. Before we were even birthed, God had a plan. And Genesis chapter 2, verse 4 to 8, and verse 15 says this. This is the account of the heavens and the earth when they were created. In the day that the Lord made heaven and earth, there was no shrub in the field, yet in the earth, no plant in the field had sprouted. The Lord God had not sent rain upon the earth. There was no man to cultivate it. But then he goes on to say, then the Lord formed the man of the dust from the ground. He breathed into his nostrils the breath of life, and man became a living being.
Yeah.
Then the Lord placed him in a garden to the east in Eden, and there he placed the man whom he formed. In verse 15, then the Lord took the man and put him into the Garden of Eden to cultivate it and keep it. That's what he designed a man to do. But the word keep, in the Hebrew word is shama. It means to exercise great care over, to take care of, protect, to guard. That was what Adam was created to do, and men, that's what we're created to do. A few good men, that's what we're created to do. But Adam dropped the ball. And so Adam went from being, knowing who he was, from really I am to am I. Am I good enough? Am I tall enough? Am I strong enough? Am I worthy enough? Am I enough? That was really what Adam went to. And see, in Genesis 3, verse 9, the Lord calls out to Adam and says, Adam, where are you? Now, it wasn't the fact that God didn't know where he was physically, he did. But what he was saying to Adam is, where is the man that I created you to be? And that's really what he says to us as men. Wow. Where is the man that I created you to be? Yeah. And so sin caused a shift in Adam's I am to am I, and the rest of its history. And so, the whole search of identity has flowed out of that. And for men in the cultures we're in today, that's where we find men are struggling, because they don't really know who their real identity is. And so it's really found in the I am, and that's what I want to briefly just kind of unpack that if I can. See, John 1:1 says, 1:1 to 3, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and the Word was God. In the beginning, he was in the beginning with God. All things came into being through him, and without him not one thing came into being that came into being. And that's a real key of being, because when the first words that God spoke were, let there be light. And when he created man, he breathed into him, and he became a living being. And so it's like with light, before light can actually do what it needs to be. Before we can do anything, we need to be. So we're created to do something, and we're created to thrive and to prosper and to be the leaders that we're meant to be. But as a real key here in the word used, let there be light, where it says let there be, it's a one Hebrew word which is haya. And that word, from the Hebrew, it says to come about, to appear, to come into being, to become like, to be instituted, to be established, to be in existence. It's the same word that the Lord used when he spoke to Moses and commissioned Moses, where he said to Moses, when Moses questioned about going to the leaders in Israel and to Pharaoh, the Lord said, I am that I am. And that same word, haya, is I am. And really, when mankind was created, God breathed life into him, and it was really the I am that he was breathing into mankind. And when mankind sinned, when Adam sinned, he went from I am to am I. Am I worthy enough? But we are worthy enough. But it's through Christ that we find that worthiness again. And it's through our relationship with Christ that we do that. And when Jesus said, I am the light of the world, see, he's saying I am. But as the light of the world, he will illuminate who we really are. See, when he said to Peter, who do people say I am? And Peter said, well, you are the Christ, you're the Son of the living God. Well, see, Peter was always Peter. But it was a revelation, it was an encounter with Christ that actually drew that out of him. When Moses had an encounter with the Lord, Moses was always the deliverer. But the Lord drew that out of him. The I am in him was drawn out by him. Gideon said, look, I'm the least from the least. But he was always a mighty warrior. He was born to be a mighty warrior. Moses was born to be the deliverer. But he doubted himself, but the Lord brought that out of him. So our identity, it's found, it's uncovered, it's uncluttered by Jesus, by our relationship with Jesus. And so that's the answer of who I am. I just want to finish with this. Another article, and this is from the Good Man Project. Again, from a woman. What makes a real man? Real men are hard to find, or so they say. They are a dying breed. They're all taken, or so they say. Real men are still around if you take the time to look. They're hidden amongst the jerks, the players, the evil ones, the chauvinists. Real men respect strong women and don't try to quiet our voices. They enjoy having a spouse that is equal to them and the fruits of a partnership that is based on respect, love and understanding. Real men are equal parts strong and soft. They know when to carry a tough exterior and when a little tenderness is needed instead. Real men stand up for what they believe in, regardless of what others think. They carry themselves with confidence without knocking the character of those around them.
Yeah.
Real men are role models for their children. They teach them to be kind, expressive,
right.
with their feelings, respectful and strong at all times, often in the same moment. Real men are guideposts for their families. They are hard workers, they're pillars of strength and a soft place to land when the world hurts their loved ones. Real men show their true hearts. They aren't afraid to talk about the hard stuff. They can show their hearts to those they hold dear and understand that showing emotion is not a weakness. Real men can admit when they are feeling weak. They speak up when they are struggling. When they need assistance or are fighting a battle, they know that they just can't win without a little help. Real men defend the innocent. They speak up when necessary. They defend when it's called for. And they're always looking out for those that have lost their way. Real men love their partners even when they don't like them. They understand that marriage is tough, that there are hard times and times of disagreement, but they stick it out because they love that other person more than anything. Real men are go-getters. They bust their butts to provide for their family, whether it's a job or at home. They do their part to keep everyone fed, healthy and happy. Real men aren't arrogant or prideful. They carry themselves with grace. They'll never be the first to boast about their achievements, but always have the confidence and self-esteem of the worthy person that they are. Real men have tender hearts. They know how to wipe alligator tears off the little faces, give big bear hugs to spouses that are down and calm fears of those around them like nobody else. Real men are fighters. They stick up for what they believe in, shut down people when they're wrong, and are warriors for their loved ones. Real men are our dads, husbands, uncles, sons, grandfathers, brothers and friends. They're everywhere. They're amongst us. They still exist. You just need to know where to look for them. Sounds like the kind of men that God created us to be good men. And so the men of vision, courage, honour, integrity, loyalty, concern and love for others, self-sacrifice, faithfulness and strong love for family. So I guess my message really is, are we real men? You know, the men that God called us to be, the men that created us to be, the good men, that's who he's calling out. And it's not the narrative that the world is giving out, it's the narrative that God gives of us. And a quote from Marcus Aurelius, waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one.
That's
Amen.
great.
And that's my encouragement. Let's be men. Let's be good men. Amen?
That's fantastic, hey. I am hoping that you've all got so much out of Paul and Deb this morning during today. And I just want to encourage us all to be, according to our series, gutsy women and be those few good men.
Amen.
I'm going to finish right now and we'll do some praying and some talking a little bit more as well. So let's just say thanks to Paul and Deb. You can start to clap right now. And don't forget the donate button as well. We want to bless them with a love offering today. Follow all the instructions online so that we're able to bless these guys as they leave us here on Monday morning. God bless you guys. Thank you so much for being with us.
It's been great.
Fantastic.
Been
Bless
great.
you.
Thank
you.
Amen.
Amen. Amen.
Amen.